Welcome in to Vandy on SI. I'm Joey Dwyer. He's Graham Bacco. He's Dylan Tovitz here at First Bank Stadium after Vanderbilt's 17-10 win over Missouri. Guys, Clark Lee called it an ugly win.
Yeah.
I was going to call it that in my question if he didn't call it that in his opening statement, so glad he did that. But nonetheless, Vanderbilt finds a way to win. Steve Lehman said in the back, or it may have been Chris Harris from the news, Vanderbilt and teams like Vanderbilt who have championship aspirations have to win games like this if they're going to get to where they want to go. Clark Lee said as much throughout the press conference. Vanderbilt was significantly outgained. I think Missouri ran over 30 plays more than Vanderbilt. In a lot of ways, Missouri should have won this game.
Yeah.
When you looked up at the final score and Vanderbilt was celebrating, though, it was 17-10, and Vanderbilt had already sealed the win. I think a real testament to what they have, Graham.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like you said, it's an ugly win, and pretty much all the stats went in Missouri's favor except the one and the most important one, which is the scoreboard. I mean, teams, like you said, teams need these sorts of, I guess, heart attacks almost, ugly wins, close wins like this where look, your offense isn't going to perform the best, and you're going to have to rely on, like, maybe your defense to win you the game, or, Pavi, he didn't play his best game. And so, but you still came out with the win, and obviously we'll talk about the penalties, and you still come out with the win, and that's what matters most, and it shows the character, it shows the toughness of this team, and just, like Clark said, that they just fight for every single blade of grass, and they earned it today.
Graham, you're going to be an unpopular man when that penalty story goes up on the site after this win.
It's true. It's true. It's true.
It is true. Also, I'm looking at Dylan just death staring the camera. It's been a long day.
Can you tell?
Just looking at Dylan throughout his whole answer, just straight staring at the camera. Dylan, we've been here for like 13 hours, college game day. Started at 8 a.m. this morning. We were there, I think 5:45, 6, something along those lines. A long day and really a celebration of Vanderbilt football and what Clark Lee has built in just about every way. It's been that way throughout the weekend. It felt fitting that they capped it this way, even though, like we mentioned, it's probably not how they would have drawn it up.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up that aspect, Joey, because frankly, I'll say this. I don't think they win this game if it's on the road, which I don't know if that's always, something, or really ever something you've been able to say with Vanderbilt, but you look at the student section, and it was packed to the last play of the fourth quarter, and that's with the fact that a lot of these students were up, all night camping out for college game day. I walked by there at maybe 9 p.m. last night, and there were hundreds and hundreds of students lined up, and, Diego spoke about it, Clark spoke about it. The turnaround that this program has undergone in the past, frankly, year and a half is nothing short of remarkable. And, what I was thinking to myself when I was sitting in that press box here in the fourth quarter on that last defensive drive is this sounds like a real SEC stadium. Maybe it was still filled with heavy Missouri fans to an extent, but it sounded to me like a very, very clear home field advantage. And you could tell, and Clark even said it in the presser, he said, I think the crowd helped us win the game tonight. And it was one of the first times that I've been able to confidently say that they had that impact, guys, and I think it's really important to take note of because that environment did play a major factor, especially on the defensive side of the ball there with the big stops, both on the 4th and 1 here, where Bo Pagula, ran it in or didn't run it in, and then hurt his ankle, which was unfortunate. And Clark opened up his statement by giving Pagula his best wishes. But really, really a great game by the defense specifically, which I'm sure we're going to get into a little bit. But definitely that environmental aspect too, guys.
Yeah, you can say what you want about Vanderbilt's defense today. You can say it didn't get off the field effectively enough, or it should have forced another turnover or two, or it shouldn't have allowed Missouri to complete the Hail Mary. I think those are all valid things today. But I look at it and say Vanderbilt's defense was as good as it could get in the moments when it needed to be really good. And it basically pitched a shutout in those types of moments where right in front of us on the goal line here, you mentioned the Bo Pagula play.
So it was like literally this exact spot.
Yeah, right. Miles Capers stuffs him at the line on 4th and 1. That's a huge swing play. It's 10-3 Missouri at that point, and they've got all the momentum off of a turnover. If Capers doesn't make that play, Missouri, it felt like was eating up the clock, basically going all the way down the field and going to end the game with a field goal or a touchdown after a 7 or 8 minute drive. CJ Hurd goes in the backfield and rips the ball out of Missouri's running back's hands. Clark Lee called that the play of the game. And then I guess a little more unintentional, they got the stop at the 1 yard line to end the game as well. Vanderbilt's defense, I thought, really answered the call in the big moments tonight, Graham, and I don't think you can take that away from them.
Yeah, and it's been this trend all year, and like we said in the past, bend, don't break, right? It's like, again, the team moves the ball down the field, but when it comes down to it, the most important play of the game, the defense steps up when it needs to with that clutch stop on the goal line, which CJ Hurd, before the review was over, they're still doing the review, and CJ Hurd went over to the ref. He's like, that's still short, right? The ref was like, yeah, even if it's a catch, but he was short of the goal line, and CJ Hurd said, he's very happy to hear that. And so, what another, and then you talk about the defensive stop right here on the goal line. You just cannot say enough about this defense, and Clark talked about it to your question, Dylan, in the press conference about the red zone defense. Missouri goes 1 for 3 in the red zone, and it's all because of the defense, and just because, again, they made the plays that they needed to make, and they prevent the touchdowns and turn it into field goal attempts, and wow.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the red zone defense there, Grant, because you've seen it forming kind of this identity the past few weeks with this defense. They forced 4 field goal attempts against Alabama. They forced 4 field goal attempts versus LSU last weekend, and these are plays that keep Vanderbilt in the game. And against Alabama, they forced these field goals, and then Diego came out, turned the ball over a couple times. The offense didn't capitalize, and they lost the game, but they kept them in it nonetheless. And you saw the same thing with LSU, and the offense was able to capitalize. And something really, the one thing Clark said in the press conference about the defense that really struck with me is defense is a game of response. And he said it's very easy for teams to when a team like Missouri is driving on you down into your territory, it's very easy to let momentum build on you and not have an effective response. But this team is proving really, really good and really, really tough at this every blade of grass mentality that Clark keeps talking about and the guys keep talking about. And it's massive. Again, you don't have to be the best defense in the world. Vanderbilt let up 375 yards tonight. They also let up 10 points, and it was only through 1 forced turnover.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like they were going out and, intercepting and balls all the time. They really played a tough game, and they played it when their backs were against the wall, guys. And I think it's safe to say at this point, seeing them play the past month, that this is not just, a one-off thing, and it's really becoming a pattern and a theme with this team.
And, sort of to your point on that, another thing that Clark said about the red zone defense is, they've sort of switched their mentality, with the red zone defense to, hey, we're inside the 20, but as a defense, we get to trap this opponent now. Instead of, having our backs against the wall, feeling the pressure, we can apply the pressure to the opponent and trap them here in the red zone, and that's exactly what they've done.
Sure, it's easier to play defense when you don't have to worry about getting beat all the way down the field over the top.
Right.
For sure. Guys, I want to talk about Vanderbilt's offense now.
Yeah.
Not as fun of a conversation in a lot of ways, but also I think that's partly due to Vanderbilt's defense not being able to get off the field at times for as much credit as we've given them. Vanderbilt only had 45 plays to work with.
Absolutely.
Diego Pavia, I thought, had one of his, you don't want to call it one of his worst games because they won against the top 15 team, but I think we've seen a lot better from Diego Pavia. He had the interception deep in Vanderbilt territory. Just thought his decision-making wasn't quite as good tonight as it kind of has been, but Vanderbilt didn't need him to do a whole lot tonight. I still think the MK Young play changed the game in a lot of ways. The 80-yard run, I wrote it felt like an impossible game to break open for a lot of this night. And then Vanderbilt draws up a really nice blocking scheme. It has the guard and the tackle pull.
Yeah.
I think Dylan or Billy pointed this out, but Eli Stowers threw a nice block. Junior Sherrill threw a nice block. And then Tristan Brown, I think on the other side, actually threw a really nice one as well. MK Young with some closing speed there. I think a play that completely changed the game. And it's cool within the story of MK Young's career and kind of what he's been through for him to have a moment like this. More importantly tonight, I don't know that Vanderbilt wins the game if he doesn't do that. I don't know if Vanderbilt gets anything going offensively tonight if MK Young doesn't make that play. Graham, Clark said CJ Hurd's fumble forced was maybe the biggest play of the game.
Yeah.
MK Young's 80-yard run, not far behind it.
Yeah, it definitely was a game-changing play. And I remember me and you were up in the press box right before that play happens, like literally 5 seconds before they snapped the ball. Like, hey, which offense is going to wake up first? 5 seconds later, MK Young goes 80 yards to the house, puts up the first touchdown of the game, and boy, that was a huge play. And like you said, MK Young, with the story that he's had, through his career, like you mentioned, he was cleaning toilets in a church in Texas just a year ago, and now he's making plays for a top 10 Vanderbilt team, and who just got up to 7-1, beat another top 15 team. Like that, this is a huge turnaround and just an amazing story for MK Young. But offense as a whole, it really did feel like pretty quickly into the game, like this is a game where the defense is going to have to win you the game, and they did. But you're going to have those games. Obviously, it was not the greatest offensive performance. We know that, and I'm sure Vanderbilt would certainly admit to that. But not every game will be perfect on offense. Not every game you're going to put up 400 plus yards of offense. Not every game you're going to score 40 plus points a game or even 50 points like Vanderbilt's been averaging at home here. But it was just a day for the defense. It's just what this was, and I'm sure the offense, they're going to get back to work next week. But it was a day for the defense.
Yeah, and I want to touch on the offense a little bit there, because I do think it's important to note that the word we've used when describing the offense so far for most of this year is methodical, and they weren't methodical today. But I don't think it's too much of a cause for concern, and the reason is Clark Lee talked a lot about the 3 and outs and how they went 3 and out a couple times, and they ended up with just a lot less time, a lot less plays to work with, as you mentioned, Joey, where the defense really, again, we said they stopped well in the red zone. They couldn't really get off the field at a lot of times. And the offensive identity still looked the same to me. It didn't look like they were disorganized out there. There were a few plays. There was the junior shell drop on a big 3rd down, and there were a couple plays where they really just there was obviously the tip pass interception that stalled momentum, and there were a few plays that they just needed to get going that they didn't get going, that I think if they did, you would have seen the Vanderbilt offense that we're used to, guys. So I'm not necessarily all that worried about it, and obviously the penalties, as you mentioned, were also an issue there on offense that kind of put them behind the sticks. And Clark Lee said that a lot. He said it's about staying ahead of the downs, staying ahead of the sticks, and they did run themselves into those 2nd and long, 3rd and medium to 3rd and long situations a lot tonight. But yeah, the MK Young run was huge. I'm glad you mentioned that. He's really explosive, honestly, and it feels it feels like almost every game he's breaking out one of those. And he hasn't necessarily gotten the volume. I want to say he just had 2 or 3 carries tonight, and this is kind of a pattern we've seen with him, but. It was a massive play, guys, and it's hard to understate it. And to your point, Graham, that's what sparked kind of the rest of this game. That was 3-3 going into the second half.
Guys, I think we need to address this as well. This was one of the craziest games that I've covered in person that I've seen. And I think both of you would probably agree. Let's just run back through some of the chaos. First of all, the way this game ended was just unreal. Like in a review, off of a Hail Mary that was completed. Heck if I know how that happened. Cedric Alexander almost fumbled on the 1 yard line, and that probably would have lost the game for Vanderbilt, if we're being honest. Missouri loses the starting quarterback. I mean, it's just chaos today. Yeah. And I think it says a lot that Vanderbilt is able to go, and whether that, I think it says a lot about the mental makeup it has. I think it says a lot about how it's built and what it's able to sustain. And I also think that we need to maybe shy away from saying past Vanderbilt teams wouldn't have been able to do it, because I don't know if this program has to be defined by its past or compared to its past anymore. I think this team is a complete outlier in a lot of ways. You saw College Game Day there. Jared Curtis had his little sign up there. He was sitting right behind us over there. Vanderbilt is in a completely different stratosphere than it has been previously, and I think it's almost an understatement to say previous Vanderbilt teams wouldn't have found a way to win that game. This team is completely independent of those teams, and I think that's part of the reason that they won this game tonight. They've completely separated themselves from their history, and man, guys, a chaotic game, a game in which Vanderbilt had nowhere near its best, maybe one of its worst performances of the year. It'd still be the top 15 team. If that doesn't tell you they're a real contender for the college football playoff, I don't know what will. Yeah,
I mean, like you said last week, this is a golden age of Vanderbilt football, and they proved it tonight with character, with toughness, with just clutch offense and clutch defense when it needed it most. And like you said, this team is an outlier. We shouldn't look at this team and base it off the history of the past and all that. This team is certainly different. This team is 7-1 with 4 games to go, 2 of them of which are certainly very winnable and should be expected to win. One of them or the other 2, it's like you could also win those 2 on the road. So yeah, this team absolutely is a college football playoff contender. The first edition of the playoff rankings comes out, I believe, November 4th, the first day after college basketball starts. So we're just a short time.
With the dates.
Look at that.
Yeah, short time away here from the first edition of the college football playoff rankings. So man, I've wrote the column earlier this week where the whole world needs to take a serious conversation about Vanderbilt being a serious playoff contender. And again, here they are. They proved it yet again. And I don't know what the percentages are now, but they're definitely higher than 34, I think.
Sure. Dylan, I want to get into this and kind of segue you to that point with this. MK Young walked in the press conference today with a Misfit shirt on. I think that says a lot about this team as well. We talked about the mental makeup, the character. I think they've really embraced that they were told that they weren't good enough by a lot of people, not only as a team, but on an individual level. And I think that's part of the reason why they're able to win games like this. I think they look at these games and say, well, other teams might not be able to do it, but everybody's told us we can't do stuff like this for our entire lives, so why don't we just go do it? And it looks like they did that tonight.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought it up because the underdog mentality is the most powerful thing in sports. It's you hear it all the time. It's what the best stories come out of, the best narratives come out of. I think a lot of times we throw it around just to get those good stories and good narratives. That doesn't feel like what we're doing here with Vanderbilt football. Again, it's not us crafting this narrative. It's this team crafting this narrative between, I think Clark Lee said it, I think Diego Pavia said it, CJ Hurd said it, MK Young literally walked into the presser wearing a Misfits shirt, like you said. And when I spoke to Josh Singh for an article last week, he had the same mentality, and it's really true. It's not just about Diego Pavia, but this entire team has that mentality. And again, it doesn't matter what we classify them as. What matters is that that's how they feel internally, and they feel that they're either currently being doubted just because, maybe it's Vanderbilt and not Alabama or Georgia or LSU, or they've been doubted at some point in their lives, in their college careers, in their football careers. Whatever it is, it's resonating, and I think, belief and mentality and all that stuff, you can't overstate the importance of it in terms of your outcomes on the playing field, guys. So I'm glad you brought it up. Yeah, I mean, this Vanderbilt team now, they're sitting at 7-1. I think Billy said this in the post game, but
we don't speak of Billy.
I know. Well, you actually brought up Billy the first time. So. But he said Vanderbilt has the most top 15 wins in the nation this year, which if that stat is true, which I believe it is, and I think this is the third. I want to say, maybe third. We'll fact check that, but we'll have to fact check Billy. But I do think it's telling, and again, we've said all along that this team has everything they want out in front of them. Obviously, guys, it's still out in front of them, but it's seeming a lot more within reach than it has been in the past. So, yeah,
absolutely.
3-1 the rest of the way for this Vanderbilt team.
Yeah.
And it can dream of the college football playoff. It can have it within reach. all it's got to do 3-1 against Auburn, Texas, Kentucky, and Tennessee. 4 games that are going to challenge it in a lot of different ways. 4 games that it can win. Dylan and I will talk about that on Monday. That's not a topic for tonight, but a special night for Vanderbilt football, a special day for Vanderbilt football. First starts when the sun is down, when there's all types of students out there. It's completely packed and a much better crowd than you would probably think Vanderbilt would be able to pull out. College Game Day celebrates Clark Lee and Diego Pavia and what this program has built. It puts it on a national stage, and it answers the call, guys. Now it's dark out again. Dylan and I are still out here somehow and are going to do some work after this. So who knows how those articles are going to turn out. But we will just wrap it with saying it was one of Vanderbilt football's greatest days in program history, and it's a lot of talk made of a lot of great days, but this one I think is among the best. For Dylan Tovitz, for Graham Bacco, I'm Joey Dwyer, signing off from First Bank Stadium on another magical night for Vanderbilt football. We'll talk to you Monday, and read the stuff at Vandy on that side tonight. God bless. Peace.